Hey all, welcome back. This is Dino the Ops Guy. This is Production Management in Practice, or Stardew Production Management 101. It's a course where we start with a production environment, and almost as if you're shadowing, or if you're a co-op student perhaps, as things would come up, I would explain this is how we'd approach it, and this is the structure behind it, and this is what's going on, and etc., etc., etc. So it really is not starting from any specific discipline or any specific literature, even though it represents it as best we can. It starts from what's going on in essentially a production environment. So in this case, the production environment is Stardew Valley. So the factory, if you wanted a factory tour, is the Stardew Valley farm. So you can actually play this along at home. This is episode 49. That means that there's 48 episodes before that. If you wanted to see the game piece of it in the storyline for the game, then you could start at the beginning and work your way up to episode 49. But given that it's a course, it's more likely you're going to just sort of hopscotch and take what you want in the learnings in the way that you want. So you don't have to actually see it in order to figure that out. But in any event, we're going to carry on. So I'm Dino the Ops Guy. I do the strategy and I do the upper management piece of it and coordination. We do have someone on the ground called Av. Av is great at this. He basically embeds himself and he figures out, based on what's going on in any situation, what's the best thing to do from a production management situation. We have a list of things for Av to consider for today. It is a rainy day, so we're just going to say harvest crops. You don't have to water them. Build lightning rods because it's raining. Lightning rods have the advantage of, if it's thundering and lightning, that any lightning rod that gets hit by lightning will produce a battery pack. So we already have 3. This could be the 4th or the 5th or the 6th or whatever. They're a pretty good return if you know the rain's coming, and we do know the rain's coming. Pet the animals and process the eggs. I noticed in the last episode that you missed petting the duck, and it's not the end of the world, but given that that's a possibility, if you could look at some quality control around that. Check the traveling cart for red cabbage. It's the best way to get red cabbage. We haven't found out the traveling cart yet, but hopefully it's coming. And then if there's some free time, forage, mine. There's also the last day of the fishing derby today. So if you want to go see, if you want to catch some trout, yeah, the trout fishing derby would be great to do. But that having been said, I am going to turn it over to you, Av. Thanks, Dino. We are back. It is Sunday, the 21st of summer. Neutral feelings. We're learning how to do the Mackie roll. It's going to be clear and sunny tomorrow. Just setting up. We've got a few mushrooms that we can harvest. That's good. And some maple syrup. That's awesome. We can convert the maple syrup into bee houses. That's going to be a good source of revenue. Got some blackberries. That's cool. And it looks like we got some melon wine that's made its way to full maturity, or at least full maturity for the wine. We haven't aged it yet. That comes later on. But we're going to reload that with hops because they return faster than melon, even though the value overall is better for the melon. So, and get our peach, check in on our cows. Hi, cows. And we're going to actually put a little more hay in. There's plenty for them, but the plan is to actually buy goats today because the big barn is ready. So we are good for some new animals. And goats are the next best. So we could do that. So yeah, essentially, we have a few things that we want to accomplish today. If we can get out to the mine, certainly not the mine itself, but the mine area, we have to give Demetrius a melon because there's a quest for that. But there's also a Demetrius quest for carp. So we'll bring our fishing rod, see if we can pick up some carp, and then give him a melon. Timing's going to be tight, though, because we got to get back to buy goats from Marnie. I think she closes at 4, so we don't want to we don't want to miss that opportunity if we can help that. So trying to squeeze a lot in today, but I think it's going to work out and it's going to be worthwhile. We just made another lightning rod. That should be good for the lightning. It's normally it's not that lucrative because we don't have many rain days, but when we do know we have a rain day, like we know it's going to be today, it is today. Making another one is kind of worthwhile. So we'll pick up. Looks like we can forage some sweet pea. I thought I saw some grapes up here earlier, but no, not the case. So we will make our way to Pierre's and sell off some of our loot, and then make our way up to see Demetrius. So, okay, we got the wine. The wine did really, really well. $7.50 each. I like that. You gotta love that. So we'll make our way up. There's some more sweet pea. So I'm hoping we'll do a quick scan of forage, but I'm hoping when we'll hoping to catch something great. Hoping to catch the 4 carp that we need. We're going to fish sideways in this case because that way, if we fill up and we drop something on the ground, it stays on the ground rather than falls in the water and we lose it. So usually I find the best place to fish sideways is right in this little sort of shelf here. So we'll do what we can. And we got a chub. I'm not really big on chub. So I find chub is the fish that you always get when you're looking for a different fish. So it's not my favorite fish, let's say that. We got a largemouth bass. We don't need a largemouth bass, but it's got a pretty good return, better than a chub. And we got, let's see what else we got here. I'm not impressed. Oh, it's a bullhead. Okay, that's not so bad. I was afraid it would be another chub. So, oh, we got another hit. Bouncy, bouncy. This is promising. No, not so promising. It's just a chub. So, yeah, they seem to proliferate. I don't know if they're an invasive species or what they are, but it just seems to clog up the fishing rod, let's say. So, and we got some green algae. Well, it'd be great if we were hungry, but we're not that hungry. And we do want to watch the clock a bit, like I said. I think if we stop at 2, that should give us enough time to make it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. There's another chub. Go look at that. So we'll keep it in another green algae. This is not worrying. I'm not really impressed with fishing in this phase. I don't know if there's a poor luck phase that we're getting into. I know it's not the luckiest day, but still, it's usually it doesn't affect us this much. We got another largemouth. We haven't had the first carp yet. This is not even one. I don't think we're going to get Demetrius' carp, honest. There's another chub. Imagine that. So they apparently an invasive species. I was thinking of going after that chest, but no, we're not going to. Oh, we got some. I don't mind the river jelly, I have to say. I think all the jellies are pretty good, especially since if you have one of each of them, you can make the. This one's a fighter fish. Wonder what this one is. It's not a legend or anything like that. So, sturgeon. Didn't know. I forgot we could get sturgeon in summer. And it's raining. That's perfect. All right, so now we got to run. We will give the melon to Demetrius, and he's going to give us $5.50 for that. And we just happen to be going by the community center, so we can drop off the sturgeon. But then we got to hoof it over to Marnie's because it is after 2, and we're trying to squeezing that in. So what do we get? I forget what the bundle gives us. A dressed spinner. That's good. Okay, so let's get back to the farm. We'll do a quick conversion of stuff and then get down to Marnie's so we can get the goat. And then after that, we can check out the cart, the traveling cart. And then after that, we can maybe even do a little more fishing down there. Okay, so let's sort this out. The bigger fish I don't mind keeping. And the spinner, of course, but the smaller fish, I think is just worth going. You know what? We're going to stop and get coffee because I think we need a coffee to make it in time, honestly. Coffee gives you the buff of, I think, 25% faster or something like that. So hopefully that's enough to get us there okay. Normally I keep the coffee in the HS until we get the food chest, but now we got the food chest, so we got that. And we made it in time. We're going to get goat. We're going to call the first one chèvre. So, you know, the goat cheese. And, you know, because that's kind of what we use goats for. And the second one we'll call feta, another goat's cheese, because that's what goats are for, goat cheese. So let's head over to the traveling cart. Fingers crossed that we're gonna get some red cabbage. It's like almost halfway through the year and we still haven't seen any red cabbage. Rhubarb's still a bit expensive, so I was thinking of maybe buying the rhubarb, putting it in the seed machine so we can get like more and more rhubarb. But that's a little too much variability. I don't know that we want to deal with that, especially for an upfront cost of $1,100. So we are looking for salmon. We are so rainbow trout. Sorry, we did find rainbow trout yesterday, but we didn't get the tags. So we must be doing something better today. We already got a tag, and looks like we got a second trout and a second tag. That's awesome. Our fishing tackle is worn out. Let's see if we can get maybe one more thing. The fishing tackle is really helpful in kind of securing the fish. But even with the trout, I think I could do it without the tackle. So we got 2 rewards. We got a tent kit, which we're not going to use for a while. And we got this big bass thing that we can put over the fireplace that we don't have. So it's a nice little thing we got there. A nice little benefit, I guess. Oh, we got some stones back here. Let's clear up those stones. One of the things I'm finding in Dino's project is unless you really dedicate time to stones, they're not easy to, especially if you throw them away. They're not really easy to get. So certainly on the surface, if you're mining stones, then they tend to be 1-to-1. So if you mine a stone, you'll get a stone, or if you mine a rock, you get a stone. Once you get into the mines, it's not 1-to-1 anymore. So like we're around level 85 or so. And I find we gotta cut 3 or 4 stones just to get 3 or 4 rocks just to get 1 stone. Now, having said that, you can get some ores, you can get some minerals. There's some other benefits, but really, if you're interested in stones, it's not the easiest thing to get. So there is a quarry that'll open up once we clear out some of the bundles. I believe it's the forging bundles give us the quarry, but that's going to be a little while. So anyway, we're gonna fill up on some of our hardwood. So this is a good place to do that, and we'll probably have to have a bite to eat. That's not going to be terrible. The slimes aren't that hard to kill, so that's nice. Sometimes they slow us down, but we'll get our wood. Kill the slimes, get our wood, and then head back. And then even when we head back, it's probably worth looking at least chop down trees, or even see if we can find some stone around the farm, just so we can get back up to the numbers that Dino was looking for the project. He's sort of said that we're going to slow down to the pace at which it has to be, but that doesn't mean I can't keep the pace on trying to get as much money in stone and wood as possible. Oh, we got even 2 stone out of a forge. What do you call those sites? The artifact sites. So that's a good thing. And we got some pickled cauliflower that we can trade up. So we will take care of that. And it's nice. Once we get a fish smoker, those salmon are going to smoke up really, or the trout, we're going to smoke up really, really nice. So we're going to enjoy that one. But I'm giving up on the potted fish today. They don't really have a good return. I mean, it's easy because you know where they are. It's not like a forge item. They had to go and find them. It's just a few touches. The chest that we use to sort of manage them is right there. So everything's, but it's still, the values are so small, especially if we get periwinkles, only like 20. But it's hard to compare those values. We did that little trick though. We did that trick where we basically convert to summer seeds, and then convert the summer seeds to saplings, tea saplings, and the tea saplings are worth $2.50 each. So that's a really good return. We mentioned that one a while ago, but we're going to use it as often as we can. We're going to put in some iron, and that's because I know we can make one bee house. But if we had more iron, we could make more bee houses, and that would be a good thing. Let's put some more hops in here and make some more pale ale, and then we're just gonna do chop, chop, chop. Get some wood. It doesn't hurt to get ahead on the wood, especially when we're still in the market for barns and coops. So the wood will be good, even though it's after midnight. And, after midnight. Anyway, so we're going to finish this up. I think 1 o'clock is kind of the safe time to say we're going to turn our tail and run. So there we go, 1 o'clock. Grab a couple of the foraged seeds along the way out. And let's take a look at the mushrooms, if we can, because we have a few mushrooms. The red mushrooms really don't go into the dehydrator or anything like that. They you can't eat them. They're kind of a waste. So I think the plan is if we why don't we just sell the silver star mushrooms? We'll leave the 3 red ones for quests or whatever the case, but we'll get rid of those and then put up our well-earned bass or whatever that is, trout, and then go to bed. So day 22 is a new day. And on the 23rd, the weather report is going to be a storm on the 23rd. That's good to know. And the spirits are going to be neutral. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dino. Okay, thanks, Av. We did, in fact, harvest the crops and build the lightning rod. We didn't need more than one. One was fine. Pet the animals, process the eggs. Av didn't really get to the quality control on the petting. I checked this time, all the animals were pet, but hopefully next episode he'll put a little more on that. I think he's doing the right thing, but it's nice. So the quality program really isn't about doing everything right as much as showing there's a system so that everything gets done right. So it's a subtle change, but that's a good example when we look at petting to sort of walk through what's required. Went to the traveling cart. There was no red cabbage, and we got 2 new goats. That's pretty good. I like goats, so there we go. In the last episode, we talked about the bottleneck, and this is what I was alluding to, that if we consider that Av's touches as a proxy for his time is sort of the constraint for the whole thing, then we should be looking at lift per touch. So I decided to look at some of the passive processes we have, such as when we put melon in a keg, or poppy honey, or when we put melon in a jar, etc., and look at the individual. So what we're doing. So for example, poppy honey, I did it on a season basis because the first honey isn't poppy honey. The first 4 days isn't enough for the poppy to grow. So you have to factor that first one is only $100, even though thereafter they're $380. So when you look at the whole season, you're still getting 236 G per touch, even considering the first touch is only 400. So that's pretty good. The only thing better than that is when we put melon in a keg, because we touch it so few times, it does stay in there for 6.5 days, but because we touch it so few times, it gives us a pretty good return. And then the same thing for silver. It's not quite the 237, it's 203.5. But again, that's the next best. And then gold melon in a keg is the next best. And then melon in a jar is the next best. But we can only put melon one places. So essentially we have a list of lift per touch for the obvious things that we're looking at. So we can use that list. We have to refine it a bit though, don't we? Right, so if we look at, for example, the keg time, because hops only takes 1.5 days to make pale ale, where the fruits, and in this case we're considering pumpkin a fruit, the fruits, pumpkin and the melon, they're going to be in there for 6.25 days. So if I look at their return left to right, that's a lift per touch. Well, they have a pretty good lift per touch. Even the base level pumpkin does better than the pale ale for lift per touch. However, if you looked at lift per day, the pale ale process is so much faster. So in this case, especially if we're looking to grow, if we got stuff we want to buy, like a new coop or a new barn, we're better off actually going with the faster product until we run out of hops, and then move towards melons and then pumpkins, sort of in that order, if you will, right? So that's sort of one variation on what we showed before. The other one is, if I have a melon, I got to decide, is it better to put it in a jar, or is it better to put it in, make it wine in a keg? And there's a bit of a difference if we're looking at lift per day, from the standpoint that putting a gold melon into a jar just doesn't work on any level. It's just less of everything. It's just the keg dominates that last in the gold realm. Now, a melon that it goes in the jar, a base melon actually has a better lift per day, but that hardly makes up for the 200 difference between a bottle of melon wine for $7.50 versus a jar of melons for $5.50. So in this case, even though the melon shows really productive on the jar level, on a lot of metrics, we're going to just put the melon in the keg. It's just a better solution. It dominates, if you will. So if we're looking at the priority, the first priority, and this is partly because poppy honey is so good, and partly because we've already run the first poppy honey out of 100. So now we're doing 380 per poppy honey every 4. And the fact that once we get into fall, the honey business with the fairy rose is going to be the Mac Daddy. That's going to be the one to watch. So the priority is going to be poppy honey, or the bee houses, essentially. If you see the bee houses need harvesting, that gets first priority over all of them. The second priority, but very close, would be the keg. And you can see we're first going to put hops in there because they're faster, but eventually you're going to be putting in that melon. And that's a really good return. The 237 for the base, the 203 for the silver, and even the 169 for gold is competitive on a lot of different metrics. The third priority is going to be the jar. And if we're looking at jars, we still have a fair bit of cauliflower, and cauliflower has a pretty good return, better than 100 for the base. However, once you start factoring in the fact that we have mushrooms and peaches, then you can sort of mix it up to say purple mushroom in a jar is worth lift per touch, much better return, on all levels, a better return than cauliflower. So that really should be the first priority. Chanterelle, which should be the second priority. Use up the cauliflower base, but once we get into the cauliflower silver, we're actually better off using our peaches. So, and then if we run out of all that, the fiddlehead fern is the way to go. Then the last priority, let's say the second last, if we're counting fishing as last. The second last priority is going to be the mayonnaise products. That may change with the ducks, because the duck egg makes a duck mayonnaise, which is a bit of a better return. But then, like I said, after that, if you get all of these covered, there's nothing left to work on any of these, then you can look at the crab pots or other type returns. But this is going to be what we're going to focus on a priority level, because we know that AV's time is really important. And really the discussion in the last episode was, because AV's time is really important, and because the bee houses return so well as the kegs, etc., we're going to use some of AV's time to develop better, more bee houses and more kegs and more preserved jars. So that's all to say, we now have a new structured priority based on those decisions, or those understandings, those epiphanies, and this is it. So hopefully that helps. This is how I would normally structure a production management establish a production management structure. I would have the supervisors in and basically walk them through a lot of these things that we're talking about. So this is pretty real, even though it's a game. But this process is sort of the right process to get to Here's how we make decisions. Here's the way we should set priorities. It's up to everyone on the floor to make the best decision in the situation. But if I don't prepare you with this data, you're not going to be good. It's just this is the better way of doing it. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully you're getting some sort of education out of that. If not the education, at least the entertainment. If there's something we can do better on the education or the entertainment, please leave it in the comments. That notwithstanding, this is Dino the Ops Guy signing off.